Good day, Vinyl community. It seems like it's been quite a while since we've been together, and it has. I'll tell you what's been going on with me for the last couple, 3 or 4 weeks. I found the last episode of my radio show, the last show of it, 4 hours long on cassette. And I figured it's from 1993. So I thought that since the show was 30 years old and the records in it were anywhere from the 1930s on up to the 1970s, that we might get away with it. So I took it and I downloaded it to CD and gave it to my son, and he took it and put it on the computer, and we recorded the intro and outro for it, and we also took a whole bunch of photographs of me and radio so we have something to look at while it was on the screen. And he put all this together, made a nice program out of it and everything. It was 4 hours long, and we downloaded it. I realized classic country music isn't for everybody. But I figured people like Elliott and Lazy Dog Records would enjoy it, and maybe a few others. But we put the program together and got it all together, and we put it on YouTube, and it was on YouTube for as many as 5 minutes, and the computer kicked it out. And that was kind of disheartening. And then we got busy, and I wasn't able to do anything, so we're back again finally. But unfortunately, I can't share that final radio program with you. I was really looking forward to it and thought a lot of people might really enjoy that. So, what I figured we'd do this week is I've done 2 country videos, 1 pop, and we did the vinyl tag. And I thought we'd do another pop video, so I went ahead and I grabbed a few popular records to share with you. The first one comes from 1958. This is Rosemary Clooney's greatest hits. She was one of my favorite singers. I liked her version of Tenderly that came out in the early 1950s. Half as Much also is on here, and Come On to My House, and Botcha Me, and several others. She was a good singer in her day. In the early 1950s, she came out and really was blowing a lot of the competition away with the stuff that she was doing. But she's a great singer. But this is their greatest hits album from 1958 that Columbia Records put out. It's a 6i. The next one is a guitar player's guitar player, Les Paul and Mary Ford. Les Paul played on the Andrews Sisters records in the 1940s. When you hear the guitar in their records, it's Les Paul playing. And in the 1950s, when the magnetic tape came out, he was the first. What he would do is double track. He would take and he would record a tune with his guitar. Then he would go back into the studio and he would slow the tape up, and he would re-record over top of that while it was playing. And a lot of people, I'm sure, when they first started hearing Les Paul records come out, were wondering how in the world he was playing a guitar so daggone fast. But he was double tracking it, and he was one of the first to do that. And he got a lot of mileage out of that, and he also had a lot of hits out of that also. But this is a good album. This is called Time to Dream. Came out, I think, somewhere around 1956. Of course, Mary Ford was also, that was his wife. They were both married at one time. And this is a good album. It's got that old feeling. It's Bewitched, Bothered, Bewildered, Door Stays, big hit. Several others, but another good album, Les Paul. And years later, he and Chet Atkins got together and produced an album called Chester and Lester Guitar Monsters. If you ever see a copy of that, that's a good album also that they put out. Here's another lady, Patti Page. She once said that before she recorded Tennessee Waltz, she knew what a big record was, but she said after she recorded Tennessee Waltz, she realized she had no idea what a big record was. That record sold millions and millions of copies. It was written by Pee Wee King and Red Stewart, and that, if not, was her biggest hit in 1950. It crossed over all the lines. It played on the country stations as well as the pop stations, and it was just a monster hit. But all her early stuff from the Mercury years are here. She got started somewhere around 1947 or 48, and all her hits, Changing Partners, Cross Over the Bridge, How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? All of us have heard that one a million times, I'm sure. And With My Eyes Wide Open, I'm Dreaming. But she was another good one. She re-recorded her greatest hits for Columbia years later, but what she did was copy this album. And these are the original recordings from the 1950s. Patti Page, another good listen. Here's Billy Eckstine and Sarah Vaughan. They're singing the best of Irving Berlin, and of course Irving Berlin was probably, if not one of the greatest songwriters of the 20th century, definitely. He had so many big hits that were recorded, and he writes the liner notes on this album, and basically he says that Sarah Vaughan and Billy Eckstine recorded these songs exactly how he wanted them recorded when he wrote them, and it tells his story basically of Irving Berlin. But this is another good listen. These two, they of course were great recording artists in their day, and they were just, of course, they do a good job here together too. I think this is from somewhere around 1958 or 59. I'm not 100% sure on that. If you ever get into Judy Garland, this is the album. If I were starting a collection of Judy Garland, this is where I'd start right here. This is the absolute best of the best. She started recording for Capitol around 1953 and recorded for him up until her death. But this concert at Carnegie Hall, she is in top voice. The orchestra is in top shape. And the audience at Carnegie Hall they're just dying for her. They're so hungry for her. She sings hit after hit after hit for these audiences, and they just can't get enough. And 3/4 through the concert, they're still yelling for more, and she looks at them, she says, I know. I'll sing them all, and we'll stay all night. And the audience just erupts. And of course, that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted to hear her sing all night long. And she does an excellent job. But this is a great concert. In my opinion, it's the best of all the records she did for Capitol. She was a great singer to begin with, but she really outshines at Carnegie Hall. And if you like Judy Garland, and if you can find Judy Garland, this would be the album to get. In the 1940s, big bands went out in the mid-1940s after World War II, but some of them stuck around throughout the 50s and into the 60s. And this guy, Bert Kempert, was a German, and he came up with an idea for a big band. He took a bass guitar, basically, and plucked out the outline of the songs, and then had a trumpet coming along. It was just a different sound. But his stuff was mostly, for the most part, was up-tempo. And he had a lot of success with that. And all his albums are great. It's the kind of music that it makes you tap your foot to. It really does. You can't go wrong with Bert Kempert. This is that Happy Feeling, and that was the big one, and the Swingin' Safari also, which he wrote, by the way, a Swingin' Safari. And there are several other tunes on here, but the way he covers records and the way he covers the hits, it makes him his own. That's all I can say about it. He was really a good broadcast and a good band and a great sound. Bert Kempert, And he had a lot of success out of that stuff in the late 50s and mid 60s. Here's another good one going all the way back to 1960. This is Dinah Washington. She had a hit called What a Difference a Day Makes. And Dinah Washington had a style all her own. There was no mistaking her when she was singing. The way she phrased and all. And this album, I've got two of her albums, and this is one of them. And this is a good album. It's arranged and conducted by Belford Hendricks. And it's just a good listen. She does Julie London's Cry Me a River. I Remember You is another one on here. Doris Day's It's Magic. And A Sunday Come to Love, and just several. But she sings them, and she puts her phrasing in it. And to me, it changes the song a little bit. It makes it a different sound. But this is a good album also. Dinah Washington, What a Difference a Day Makes. When I was growing up, Pat Boone was somebody I didn't listen to. He was like Doris Day. It was just, I don't know, we just passed over him. We kept passing over him. And the only record I ever remember ever hearing was Love Letters in the Sand, and that would play when my father was listening to the radio. Every once in a while you'd hear that. But they didn't play his records much when I was growing up. But I found this album, and I found his Greatest Hits Volume 2, and they are really good music. He really was a good singer. I never paid a lot of attention to Pat Boone, like I said, but I have to take my hat off to him because he really was a good singer. A lot of the songs on this album are enjoyable, and they were good, and I can see why he was popular now. He's like Doris Day. They just don't play a lot of him, and you don't hear a lot from Pat Boone. And that's kind of a shame now that I've heard him and listened to him. He really is. This is his Great Hits Volume 1, and I've got Volume 2 also, which I enjoy. And this is a radio station album, and these are the actual call letters of the radio station, WEED. And this is a broadcast promotional issue album. The reason why I know is because on the back, if you can see it, are the names of the tracks of the album, the intro, and the outro times and all that. But this is K-Star, Moving on Broadway, which is a very good album. And I enjoy this one a lot also. I enjoy a lot of K-Star. K-Star was a very good singer. She really was in her day. And if you've never heard K-Star, you can probably pick her up on YouTube. I'm sure all her hits are in there. But she had a very good sound, and this is one of them. Van Alexander is the orchestra leader on this album. But from somewhere around 1959 or 60, K-Star. And last but certainly not least, you Julie London fans out there, I listened to this album while I was unloading my groceries today. And this is called About the Blues, and it's a very good album. I heard side 1 this afternoon, and I really enjoyed that. This record was the property of KONO Radio, which I think is out in Texas. I'm not sure. But Julie does a great job. This has got a brass band in it, and an orchestra behind it also. And she sings a lot of the blues, Basin Street Blues, I Got a Right to Sing the Blues, Meaning of the Blues. Just all the song titles have blues in them. And it's called About the Blues, and it's Russ Garcia in his orchestra singing for Julie. And this was put out, of course, on Liberty. I'm not sure which year, probably around 61 or 62, somewhere around in there. But this, from what I've heard so far, this is a very good album. Side 1 is anyway. I enjoyed that a lot. Julie London. And last but not least, let me show you something. And I learned this on YouTube. There are a lot of people out there. This is a coaster. Okay? Now, I don't want people to think I'm destroying records, because I'm not. This was an album by Tennessee Ernie Ford and the Jordanaires, and it originally was busted. The first 2 songs were completely broke. The album was non-playable anymore. And I saw this on YouTube, and I thought it would be interesting. What I did was, I took a saw and I cut the record out, because like I said, the record was broken. It was no good. And then on the back side, I put felt, as you can see. Then I found some spray, some water-resistant spray, and I sprayed the front of it so that the label would be covered up, so that when water drips on it, it will repel the water. And it is a coaster. I thought that was an interesting thing. I did that. The guys, I'll be honest with you, the guys that were in the video, they had hundreds of them, so I'm sure they were destroying a lot of record albums, and that kind of displeased me a little bit. But I like that idea, so when I get records that are completely non-playable anymore, I'm going to make glass coasters out of them. And that just about does it. The clock has done run all the way around, and it's time once again for us to get our satchel and go. And we'll be back before long, though. I want you to keep listening for us, if you will, and leave us a note in the comments if there's anything that interesting that I've said, or maybe something you'd like to know, or something you can tell me that I don't know. Just leave me a little comment. I appreciate it so much. So until we meet you again, this is Mr. Rick saying that if the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll see you for long.